Welcome to the Jungian Drift. We invite you to join us as we explore contemporary developments in Jungian thought in the San Francisco Bay Area and beyond.
Hello, I'm Robert Carriger, candidate in analytic training at the C.G. Jung Institute of San Francisco, along with my co-producer, Claire Kohne.
I'm Claire Kohne. I'm a preliminary candidate at the San Francisco Institute.
Yes, she'll be starting as of the recording in a couple weeks. And actually, if you notice a difference in the sound quality of this recording from other episodes, it's because we're actually recording on location at the International Congress for Analytical Psychology for 2025, which is being held in Zurich, Switzerland, partially to mark the 150th birthday of C.G. Jung. So what we've managed to do, we're very happy and delighted, it was to manage to collar one of the presenters of one of the seminars here that we particularly liked, and he graciously agreed to interview with us. Vlado Šolc is a professional psychotherapist and a diplomat Jungian analyst practicing in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Vlado received his training from the C.G. Jung Institute of Chicago and Charles University in Prague. He is also the author of 6 depth psychology-oriented books: Psyche, Matrix, Reality, The Father Archetype, In the Name of God, Fanaticism from the Perspective of Depth Psychology, and Dark Religion, Fundamentalism from the Perspective of Jungian Psychology, which he co-wrote with George Didier. Okay. His work, I have had a chance to read a bit of his work while I've been here and go through his seminar. And something that really grabbed me was how Vlado really manages to integrate this notion of how the individual processes that kind of underlie religions and religious belief kind of mesh and interact with collective processes around religious beliefs. And he's applied them in these ideas in these very interesting ways beyond just standard religions, but things like mass movements such as cults and conspiracy theories. And at the conference, he actually applied his ideas and Jungian ideas to the current phenomenon of QAnon in the United States. So welcome, Vlado.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
You have so many ideas that we're just going to be just absolutely just getting a sample of the things that you've been thinking about. Something I'd really like to, if we could, to start talking about these ideas about your use of the story of Calypso and Odysseus as an entry point for not just the kind of the archetypal basis for things like dissociation, but also to help people kind of have that gut feeling of what that's about. Mm-hmm. And do you mind telling the story?
Sure, yeah, we can talk a little bit about that. If I kind of make it simple, mm-hmm. So Odysseus gets lost after Trojan War, mm-hmm. and he's trying to go back to his wife Penelope, mm-hmm. right, who lives in Ithaca mm-hmm. island. And as he's sailing, he's going through a lot of peripeties, mm-hmm. a lot of problems, and we can look at it as this mm-hmm. is a sort of an individuation journey, right? Like mm-hmm. he's trying to go back to himself, find mm-hmm. back his soul, reconnect with the soul, the anima, mm-hmm. if you will. So it's a heroic myth, and he's encountering a lot of problems. And me and George focused particularly on that aspect when he gets shipwrecked on Ogygia island. Mm-hmm. So that actually happens after he loses his men. They die after the attack. He has to sail between the Scylla and Charybdis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the rock and the hard place, right?
Yeah, rock and the hard place. And it's a very traumatic event. Mm-hmm. So he's shipwrecked, and he's alone, and that's where his sort of the real individuation mm-hmm. begins. Mm-hmm. He's traumatized, tired, he's losing hope, and he's depleted of energy and so on. And there he finds this beautiful nymph, mm-hmm. Calypso. Mm-hmm. And Calypso is saying, "Hello, Odysseus. I am glad that you're here. I'm going to take care of mm-hmm. you, and I will be always young for mm-hmm. you. I will make love with you, forever, and then you will not know the death So she's promising him immortality. And Odysseus is very, very pleased and very happy to be taken care of, originally, of course. So, and then what? Odysseus suddenly, he's like, wow, now I found something. So we're thinking about it psychologically. So what does it mean? What is the representation on the symbolic level in this myth? Who is Calypso? Calypso is actually, calypsis, it means to cover or to hide. Calyptos is the dianoumenon. It means to cover something that is very important. It was used in ancient language as a bridal, the cover for the face of the woman, the veil. Or even if you go back to Norse mythology, it means the coverer, the taker, or even the dead goddess. So it is something that hides, cover, and takes the real identity. You know, if you will, there may be something like a defense system. So we called her, or we kind of thought about her as an archetypal defense system that protects during the very difficult and traumatic situations. So Odysseus is in this stage, and suddenly he will receive something that is very beautiful, yet not real, right? It's a substitute for his wife Penelope that he deeply inside he's yearning for her, he wants to reconnect with. So we thought about Calypso as a being, an archetypal process of hiding the true intentions. And we created a word actually that is called theocalypsis. That is the process that when one is really in a process and state of mind possession by the energies of the self, so-called divine energy. So that's why we call it Theo as a god and Calypsis. So theocalypsis could be translated hiding behind the god. So people who become in that state, they use this as sort of a prompt themselves and say, okay, I'm hiding behind the god and says, I am now acting in the name of God. I am strong. I'm receiving all this energy. I get something that other people don't have because I have the faith and so on. But it is an ego process because this ego is hiding behind the self. So the ego is covered as eclipse, right? The eclipse also has an etymological part of it. So Calypso isn't that one that eclipses the ego by the energies with the use of the energies of the god. That which is unconscious becomes possessive. I hope this is not too complicated. I'm trying to summarize this thing.
Well, I think we can flesh out some more of it because I think it's such, and one thing that I really, really appreciated about your presentation was this using the Calypso as this metaphor and a symbol for this process, which I think it's relatable, right? So somebody has this big trauma. Odysseus is at the end of the rope, right? This is a guy who's run out of everything. He's lost his crew. He's lost everything. Completely desperate. He's been in this battle. And then he can be in this kind of blissful state. And I guess when we say like an archetypal process, we're saying there's an inherent kind of archetypal energy that in our psyches that can click in these situations. It sounds wonderful. So what's the problem for Odysseus of doing this? So it sounds like it's a great deal. He won the lottery. Sure. Why isn't that the end of the story?
Okay. So the deal is in that kind of possession by the numinos, if you think about it, right? The numinos is always composed of this tremendous or tremendum and this fascinating part. So it's like something very blissful and beautiful, but there's something scary and terrible.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of Jungian psychology, right? The self is a complexio oppositorum. It's not just one thing or the other, but it's a complex. It's the God that is good and bad in the same time. And it's the part of the self that we deal with. But Odysseus, in this moment, his defense system, Calypso helped him to split that part off. And it was like, you don't worry about it. You don't worry about the real life, essentially. Because that's the real life. Jung said the God is reality itself, right? And we cannot sort of think it out from our lives. You cannot erase the reality. That's what happened to Buddha, right? When Gautama Siddhartha walked out of the castle where his father kind of kept him away from the pain and old age and death and suffering, he walks out and he's like, wow, holy cow, there is this aspect of reality that I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And I have to deal with it. So Odysseus splits off this, or that happens that this part is split, and he becomes possessed.
Yeah.
And as a rule, or as a definition, that which possesses it's unconscious. And the more unconscious it becomes, the more possessive it becomes. Now, when we talk about fundamentalists, we talk about conspiracy theorists, what happens to this part that is unconscious, right? There is either identification or there is a projection. So people sort of can attack self, they can become very sinful, and they can sort of beat themselves up, or they can find a scapegoat and an enemy and says, you are the infidel, you get to be eliminated. You are the bad guy, and you don't accept our holy, great God who is so good to you, and we need to kill you and everybody else and your children because you are outside of our faith or belief that we are identified with.
So the deal with Calypso, you get this piece. She lets you not be part of this battle of the opposites, this tension.
Yes, you can put it this way.
The good and the bad. And here's the deal. You don't have to suffer through this. You don't have to work it out. You don't have to. I think maybe this one of the secrets here is individuation. I think it sounds like this. It's like this picnic and this great journey. It's like it's one ordeal after another, right? So the price is, though, that your personal growth stops, right? You just become. Time stops in a way for like Odysseus, doesn't it?
Yes, that's actually maybe the analogy, right? Like said he basically, the Greeks thought about it that it's not in a paradisical way as the Christians would thought about it, but they thought like you died, right? Like you can look at it as a death. He was also a dead goddess originally, so something died and is dead, right? But if you look underneath the surface, then you have the myth of Odysseus who is suffering, but unconsciously, I suppose, right? Like he had to split that part off, and he's in all inclusive. If you think about it, right? And he's become sort of boring after a while, and he starts
like being on a cruise ship for 7 years.
Many people have this experience through problems in their marriages, psychosomatic problems, or they develop some kind of depression, or they develop a very sort of peculiar neurosis, or they get into conflicts with people, right? The state of imbalance always find a way.
Yeah.
And that is, right, like that's we talk about it, the self comes in. And, Edward Edinger, he said, apokálypsis is the coming of the self into consciousness. So apo means to uncover, so apokálypsis. So like, now no Calypso anymore, let's uncover it. So it is the Zeus who Athena goes to Zeus and she says, look at poor guy, please, I can't watch it anymore, it's just so painful. So he says Hermes, who is like we can think of him as a transcendent function.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Please,
because I remembered that Hermes was the one sent by the gods to go get him, so I was wondering if you have what that means to you.
So I just I don't know if this just talking before our recording, it turned out that Claire in her art school days actually played Calypso in a play. So she had questions about Hermes here.
Yeah, but I was wondering then who is Hermes?
Yeah, so Calypso would be, right, this if you look from the point of view of Donald Kalshat, it would be this a fantasy of the self-care system, right? In order to sort of keep Odysseus in this provisional state of relative happiness, so he doesn't disintegrate and go totally mad after this trauma. So it gives him this soothing fantasy of being taken care of. But it's not a real self, right? Like there is this life spirit wants to go through.
Yeah.
So perhaps the Hermes is a kind of a mercurial god. He's got the wings and he can, fly, he can appear. So he can be considered as a transcendent function. Meaning transcendent function is this mysterious function. Even Jung said, there's nothing mysterious about it. Well, I think it's pretty mysterious because it allows something bigger to be reflected in something smaller, right? Like it allows for self to be reflected in the ego. So it's like if you have let's say a Zurich lake and it's a sunset and then suddenly you see the reflection of the sun in the water in so many million ways on it. So how is it possible that this sun that is far away and now is reflecting on the water, which is, sun is so enormously bigger than Earth, and yet you can see it. So the transcendent functions allows Odysseus to sort of, wow, now I remember there is something deeper. I have a journey I have to follow. I am caught in this illusion of perfection. I'm in this paradisical state, but I forgot about something essential, which is real life, which is my Penelope, the pain of life, and all that mixture of reality. That's what is the most precious thing that we have, right? The reality with all these aspects. So he sort of wakes up and says, it's time to go.
Yeah. So with Calypso, his paradise, he's also basically unconscious at some level when he's on that island. Odysseus.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. We can say that.
He's kind of in a bit of a, he's not self-aware, but then there's this function that allows the ego to get the big picture of things in a way, but not get so overwhelmed that they're blown away, that they can actually take it in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's how I thought about it.
Yeah.
I mean, there are many angles how you can look at these defensive processes, but one will be exactly that. He's unconscious. So the part of the reality that is unpleasant, those part the emotions are being split off. And that's often the case with people who experience trauma. They either create this fantasy or they sort of allocate it somewhere in the body and becomes sort of psychosomatic. And that the painful aspects of the trauma, the dark or unbearable affect, has to be cut in small pieces and put in a different part of reality that is not obvious, it's not transparently conscious.
Yeah. Are there sometimes when it's an adaptive process, this ability to go onto this island with Calypso? Is there times when it's helpful for a psyche to have that?
I would argue that, of course, absolutely. And I think it's a sort of an unnecessary regeneration. And it's good for psyche. And we do seek change state of consciousness and even state of dissociation or even the states of possession by something really blissful and beautiful as a healing.
Yeah.
This is what Kalshit calls the bright angel.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Maybe that we can compare it to, Kalshit's idea.
So there's a period where but then it can become too long or be a lifestyle, and if you don't have like a goddess that's going to send Hermes down to snap you out of it, then...
Yeah, it's kind of like colder and cold. The god is present, right? So the god will eventually come in and something happens. Yeah. Right? Like everybody has their own time. Yeah. And perhaps, I mean, I don't know how to explain it. Yeah. Right? Like, I mean, these are sort of things beyond knowing like why is what happening, because it may not be causal. Yeah. But it's just waiting for the right time. Yeah.
I just wanted to just touch a little bit on that. Like so many things that in psychology, right, are sometimes they're helpful processes and sometimes not helpful processes. And I think it's helpful to relate, especially if we're going to get to QAnon, which I think for a lot of people is just baffling, right? To try to help relate to what's that about and what would lead somebody into that. And so go with Claire's. With the QAnon, did you have a specific question or something you wanted to lead off with regarding that?
See, how do I ask that? You are interested in people who fall into QAnon, but also fundamentalist Christians, and I was wondering what to you is the through line in terms of psychologically what was happening. For me, when I look at those two groups and the overlap, I think about their relationship to power, or like the large other, and what they're projecting onto, like you said in your talk, the invisible large force that is beyond human control, whether that be the deep state or like higher power. And I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
So, and again, it's just a conceptualization, right? So when we were researching fundamentalism, we came to realization that the dark religion, or as the theocalypsis, appears in many forms. So we call it a sort of a possession of mind by the archetypal energies of the self, where there is presence of something supreme, something sort of the highest archetype that has the qualities of real possession that you cannot really argue against that, right? Like you can argue with a religious fanatic about religion because he gets to the point of God and say, well, don't argue with God. I'm representing God here. So your point doesn't make sense or is irrelevant because there is nothing, you don't have a higher card to to win this argument. And similar process, we believe, happens in conspiracy theories, except that they project the God or the God energy, or if you will, the energy of the self onto some unknown entity that is profane, that is mundane, that there are people, or there's somebody who is so powerful, but they cannot be found. So there would be elites of liberal world, or people who did 9/11, right, or the George Soros, or all these things, or ultimately the deep state.
Yeah.
Right? There is government, and there are all these branches of government, and there is DOJ and whatever. But then underneath that, there is this powerful people who are deep state we need to catch, which they, of course, can't. And
well, I want to just clarify for people with
sure.
Maybe for some people who aren't so familiar with Jungian psychology and certainly kind of the notion of the self archetype. You say, of course, they can't catch it. Now, to me, I'm thinking yes, but I'm like, maybe for some people that it's not so obvious. Can you say a bit more about why, if you kind of blame some sort of vague powers that be like a deep state, why is it they can't catch it?
Because they don't really exist, right? Because they're projected, right? They are a projection of something. Right? They keep promising they're going to find out who was the mastermind of the 9/11.
Yeah.
And they still be working on it, right? And I think that's the idea, that if you have this projection, that you can't really catch it, just like you can catch your shadow. It's always, you're going to be still casting it. And they do keep talking about it, how they are trying to catch them, how they're going to win the fight. And maybe that's what Claire is saying. They receive the power. Now, I'm powerful. I have a secret. I have a mission. I'm following the secret clues and signs, and I am this conspiracy theorist fighter who is on a quest to catch them all, right? To find who is abusing those poor little children and torturing them and extracting adrenochrome, as it is in the QAnon theory. So
I actually, until your lecture, I hadn't actually heard the story that with QAnon, and maybe you could say just in a nutshell what that is, because I think maybe it's kind of strange that something's in the news so much, and maybe it's just the actual conspiracy isn't so well known.
Well, it's very complex. Yeah. So, I mean, the QAnon theory right now encompasses a lot of different conspiracy theories, the assassinations of Robert Kennedy and the flat earthers now, and the moon landing, and they are just kind of now become this main theory that attracts a lot of other conspiracy theories under its umbrella. But essentially, the aspect of it, what we focus, says that there are liberal elites who are kidnapping, torturing, sexually abusing children. While they're doing it, they're extracting the hormone, or it's not really a hormone, it's a kind of a substance that is called adrenochrome. And it has to be while the child is being abused, because it has some kind of special qualities, because you cannot extract it when the child is dead or not being tortured. So it's like a perfect storm of the trauma that is kind of in this symbol, right? So when they do that, and then they kill them, and that adrenochrome, it's assurance of immortality in their view. So they believe
this is their, dare I say, myth?
That's the myth. Right? That's the myth. That's what they believe. That's what QAnon is spreading and believing, that actually liberal elites have a possession of this adrenochrome. They have it. They do it. They torture their children, but they need to be stopped and they need to be caught. And this is another example of how QAnon projects something onto the other. Like, you guys are the bad guys, and you are in possession of this substance. I mean, I'm sure that if you ask them, I had a fantasy that I would do like I go to the QAnon meeting and I would ask them, like, please tell me honestly, if Trump will catch, President Trump will catch those who are in possession of adrenochrome, would you be okay if he took it? Because he was extracted under such conditions. Would you agree with that? Or you would probably say, no, he can't have it. He has to become mortal, and he, he can be. And I betcha that they would say, well, I would just probably make an exception that Donald Trump could have it. So
the imagery and the symbolism here, I know you mentioned in your workshop that like the historical kind of predecessors for archetypal kind of pattern, right? That it's QAnon's version, but this looks like the water of life, and
So we have this abused child, and then we have extraction, something from that child, from that abuse that comes out, and is a lapis philosophorum. Is the elixir la vie. It's something that heals and that it brings life and immortality.
That's what the alchemists are chasing after.
Exactly. So we're back in Ogygia Island, right? There is a Calypso, and there is like this substance that gives you this beautiful life that you don't have to worry about anything.
The prize in this, which is extracted in horrible ways and stolen and extracted, would be to be able to live like you're with Calypso on that island. That's kind of the dream.
Yeah, essentially.
There's no death, and kind of back to the Garden of Eden.
Make America great again, right? Like, let's go back to this paradisical time where everything was great. And they even have the storm in their mythology, right? The storm, the draining the swamp, it's the apokálypsis, right? Like, we're going to reveal who is bad. We're going to reveal all that, we're going to put them in trial, and we're going to execute those who torture our poor little children. When you look at it symbolically, it's the inner child that is hurt, but it remains so deeply unconscious for many people. They cannot access that, right? They do not behave the way that the inner child needs to be taken care of. They express a lot of anger. So there is the victimization. There is the feeling of sinfulness, shame, and it's being projected out. And say, you guys are taking away something from us. So we had this perfect America, for example. And now we have the immigrants who taking our jobs, who are doing all those bad things, right? Like the scapegoating, which is nothing new in a history. And this, actually, that myth of adrenochrome is something that started a long time ago, as I tried to show in the myth of Minotaur, or when the Anglican Church became more fundamentalist in a way, they were using this as an excuse to persecute Jews, because they say Jews are kidnapping our children, extracting the blood in a satanic rituals, which is QAnon is also considering that the liberals are doing this satanic rituals, cabal. Like, this is, they don't just do it in on a street or something. They have a ritual. They have like something that is very sacred in a way, from the point of satanic.
Well, I guess in terms of like the dark, like it's a worship. It's a satanic. It's the evil God.
Like allowing yourself to go to this darkest place to extract something that is really great, right? Like that gives you immortality in a way.
Do you have a sense of what about like that particular, the QAnon, I'm going to call it myth.
Okay.
Or story.
Myth or a dream.
Dream. Is it a hook for certain people? Does there certain individual qualities that would make somebody more vulnerable to that, to want to go there?
Well, there are a lot of research done, like who is more susceptible to conspiracy theories. Statistically speaking, again, it's more often men than women. More often people who have a lower education, people with higher education, they're less susceptible to it. It's not a rule, but, statistically speaking, people who are from broken families, they experience trauma, for example, and then there is, of course, all kinds of personality disorders that play into it. And this is what I've noticed and I tried to find a research on it, but I haven't found. But this is just my observation. People who use marijuana, who are like heavy weed smokers, they develop that. I often find time, like people who are heavy weed smokers, they lower their consciousness, something shifts there, and they become more open to this kind of conspiracism, and they go online and they're stoned, and they suddenly say, wow, and they start to see those connections. Because they sort of enter this archetypal world that is not so controlled by the ego consciousness. And this is just that would be great to do a research on it. Like, what's the percentage?
Well, also, it's interesting with different substances that people choose, right? I mean, so that's a substance that kind of numbs things out and takes away pain. And
why are they taking it in the first place?
You go to kind of a pleasant fantasy world, right? So it's...
I've noticed in Europe, actually, some of people who I know who are a part of the conspiracy theory that Russia is pushing, they're heavy weed smokers.
I wonder, because at face value, the QAnon kind of myth makes so little sense to somebody who's outside of that, right? And it's so hard to relate to it as a human. Like, how does somebody fall into that? How do they believe it? And I think your explanation, it gives us a way to bridge ourselves to it. Like, we can kind of relate to it, right? And most people have probably had a period in their life where they'd like to go hang out with Calypso on an island and not suffer for a while. And yeah.
Well, also, just like any of our individual projections, there's always a hook.
Yeah.
And outside for it to catch on. And I think there are plenty of hooks that that people who are lost in QAnon, like we get the Epstein files or something like that. There's enough out there for me to be like, okay, I could see how there might be a hook somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of that is that there's always a little bit of truth in it, right?
Yeah.
Just like, as you said, Epstein files, right? Like, they're real children abused. We already know that that's not a conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
That Epstein was sentenced based on some pretty bad abuse. We don't know the details, at least I don't. And we know that Democrats had those files for a long time, and supposedly the current president is on it, but they have not released it either. So they're protecting something. Somebody's protecting someone, right?
Yeah.
And even the circumstances under which he died are suspicious. And I tend to say, well, there is a certain percentage of probability that it wasn't a suicide, right? It was just this 1 minute of missing tape. This is very interesting, right? Because this is like the moment of the truth, right? Like, are we going to now, if you are a conspiracy theorist and you are on a quest and it's coming and it's coming and you believe it's going to be revealed, and then you come to this point, okay, do it. We want to see something what is there.
It's time for the storm.
Yeah, it's time for the storm. If it's not revealed, are they going to sort of change their mind? Would they? Yeah, that's a big question.
Well, how are people? How are people going to get out of that dream, right? And is it going to be that they act it out in the world, or is there something that triggers that kind of integration, that kind of realization? Like, I wanted to get a bit too on the idea of, you're saying the hooks, right? There's a hook on the outside. So with projections, right, the idea is that somebody has to have a bit of the quality that you're projecting for it to go there. And there's certainly enough in the world to make one think that there's things happening by people that maybe aren't in the best interest of everybody. But I'm also wondering too, if it sounds like when you're in a conspiracy, it puts the bad outside. It makes the world make some sense. But also it gives that person in the conspiracy, you're kind of powerful now, right? You're not this disempowered person who's at the whim. Right now you're getting, it gives your life a bit of a meaning. Right now you're
powerful and innocent.
Yeah, powerful and innocent.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's innocence. There is this golden child is being protected, cocooned.
So is there also something historically that maybe has happened that we're also going to identify with, where a lot of people maybe in a collective level are feeling less and less empowered in general, and making them prone to kind of seek ways to feel some sort of power and agency in the world?
Want some grand design.
Yeah.
Jung said that religions are psychotherapeutic systems of the mankind, right? Like, so he said that religion is very natural, sort of speaking of the self to us, and giving us is projecting on this projecting screen a plan of how to be healed and how to proceed on our individuation journey. However, that religious process can get stuck and can become a protective process that is no longer serving individuation, but it's only serving as a sort of encapsulation. And he criticized, for example, the Christianity or the Catholic Church based on this. They say you split the God, right? You said the God is supreme good. There's a privatio boni idea, right? Like the evil is only privation of good. It doesn't really exist. Evil doesn't exist. We have to, the humans are all responsible for it. So it's splitting off that part of the darkness, if you will, which is, we shouldn't call it darkness, right? It's just the human nature.
Yeah.
But it's splitting it off, and it's tearing the world into two parts.
Yeah.
So that creates division, finger pointing, the religious wars and crusades, and you name it. But essentially what he believed, that there is this religious instinct within all of us, and that we grow by tapping into it and being able to have a dialogue with it and being able to drink that water, that the aqua perma is, the living water from it, and grow. And perhaps that what Jung already was saying that 100 years ago, that we are actually becoming sort of spiritually drained, that we lost this spiritual instinct, right? That religion, in the terms of religio, reconnecting with something deeper, we are losing it, and people are spiritually lost, and they really don't know how and what to do. And there is either a fundamentalism on one side that is just kind of a religious fever, like we have to stick with this, or there is this kind of a very liberal, well, there is either no God or God is everything, but it doesn't really give people this practical hands-on process, how to proceed and look for spirituality. So perhaps those people are lost and looking for something deeper. And people who have this thirst or this gap, they are, of course, more prone to latch on something meaningful.
Well, so, and you said it gives you a little bit of hope. You feel like there's a hopefulness in this view, and I certainly want to end. I would like to end with that.
Okay, so I believe, and again, this is the whole belief kind of territory that we have no way knowing.
This is your gut instinct.
Yeah, it's a gut instinct. You just got to look at the past. And, you hope that history repeats itself. It's an indication of us entering this nigredo state. There will be this rebirth, right? That there will be, that the wounded king is actually a nation that is suffering and needs to go by the lake and fish, right? Like the fisher king, and and ask the question, what aches me? What is really happening here on a real level, on this conscious or authentic suffering, rather than projective and rather than blaming someone, but really grow up. Something's not right here, and we have to learn and figure out how to connect with each other, how to find a way of moving forward by making connection and bridges and realizing we are all one humanity. And current administration is doing the opposite, right? We want to be isolated, everybody is enemy, and we have a control of everyone. So they are representing this possessed ego of theocalypsis. But I believe we go into the stage of theonemesis, which is, the nemesis is the God of the righteous distribution, that something will pop. Because it will be unsustainable. I mean, like, you can only go so far lying to yourself and living in sort of split of reality, that it will reverse. And then we will have to deal with that and clean up and look into it and go through the process of reintegration and transmuting those painful emotions and images and turning into something positive and grow from it. Okay. That's my hope.
Okay.
We'll see. We can have another meeting in 10 years.
Okay, we'll have a follow-up.
I appreciate you holding that hope for us.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time during the conference to talk with us and share this perspective with us and with our listeners.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure, and I'm I appreciate that I can have an opportunity to formulate somehow my own ideas. So
Okay.
It's been fun, and I'll be happy to do it again if we'd like to continue our connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. This has been a production of the Jungian Drift. Though our hosts and guests may be affiliated with the C.G. Jung Institute of San Francisco, please note that the Jungian Drift LLC operates independently from the San Francisco Institute. The purpose of this podcast is educational and not intended to be used as psychotherapeutic advice. For more information about this episode, visit us at thejungiandrift.com.